it's leaning on power.
Okay, yes, that's right.
So I navigated.
Okay.
There we go. The Corporation of Hoppersbury Budget and Finance regular meeting, August 29th, 2022, 3:32 p.m. at Town Hall. And Deb Kelly, our financial officer, here, and we have Walt Drake, Storm DiConstanzo, and myself, Christian Patrick, all on town council. And the communication. Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpersferry governing and deliberative bodies will hold its meetings and or hearings via Zoom, which provides for public participation during the public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch by YouTube or listen by telephone. These options comply with the West Virginia Open Governmental Meetings Act. Approval of the agenda. Anything we want to move around? Some of these things we may, we'll see. We'll see what we got.
Oh, the mayor might pop in on the item 4 under new business. I'm just saying that to remind.
Oh, yeah. We didn't know much about that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I think
good
he
idea.
had some insight on that. So
Oh,
just remind me when we get there. I'll see if he can come in.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve the
I'll make a
agenda?
motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Second,
Second.
discussion, huh? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so first item of business, old business, discussion action regarding a plan for participating in the solar energy offering from Potomac Edison.
All right, if you look at item number 1 on your packet right here, this is the summary letter that we got from them. 3rd page of the spreadsheet that I developed to help us know some options using our street light bills. And I did take this spreadsheet and sent it to Thomas Butcher. He agrees that how I've done it is right. That, there's a couple different ways that they calculate what you contribute, and and the math is different doing they're 2 different plans. So anyway, so with our street lights that of which we have 78, they consume 71 kilowatts per month on average. And so what you do is you figure out what % of the kilowatt hour you would want to contribute to total. And then that, if it was 100%, you would be doing 4 cents per hour. Then you see the contribution per month, and then that's all multiplied by the units, right? And
Yep.
so if you did 100% of the percentage, you on an annual basis, you'd be looking at $2,600. If you did 25%, $600.
Okay.
Our other bill for Potomac Street is billed differently. It's not billed per unit.
Mm.
It's just billed as a single kilowatt because it's the LED arrangement. I don't really
They're
understand all that.
bulbs, yeah.
So that has a different methodology to a certain extent. And so there you can see. So this second principle is what you would apply if, like, you wanted to take all the town's power bills and apply them. You would figure out what your average kilowatt is and do it that way. I did not go that far because y'all just talked about streetlights right now.
I
But
can see, didn't look at anything beyond the street. light.
No.
I'd asked her about streetlights, and Thomas had thrown it out.
Yeah.
And-
just as an idea or a way of tangibly, I think y'all were saying this is a way that we can easily say, look, all of the streetlights that we have, we're contributing, right? So, but I can dig deeper, but this is what I saw.
Yeah, I'll say, for my part, I feel like going to renewable energies is one of the most, if not the most important thing as humanity we need to do. And that participating beyond streetlights would be beneficial. But that, certainly we can talk about streetlights right now, because this is a program that, that you can buy into as we go.
Well, and
Yeah.
and so to that end, I can take the other bills that we have and run the math on them. And then y'all can say, okay, well, then we can say, okay, well, what's going to fit into our budget, right? And then you can decide, what might end up happening. Okay, hopefully, we're good to go here. Okay. The recording is on. And we're live on YouTube. But I don't see the transcription. Pardon me. Able it turn back on again. I feel like maybe we're getting a loop. Yeah. Okay, I think it's good. Back over.
Let's set it off.
Oh, yeah, I'll start to say.
All right, so what I was saying is that, you know, we might decide, okay, we can afford $2,500 a year to do this, and so we can either put it on all of our bills at 25%, or we could just do it on, see what I'm saying?
I'd like to get started on as soon as possible. I'd like,
Well, the trick is that it won't, we can't do it before December 2023.
But I thought that we're committing now.
Yeah,
I'm saying commit now this.
Yep.
And let's get next month, we'll get the rest if we decide.
Well, let me ask this, so. Is there a number based on, you're looking at the budget that you would feel comfortable saying this would be the maximum budget you would have for renewable at this point? Because it's a question of,
It's not in the budget.
okay. But given that, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. I guess that's the question is, what's the scale of the rest of?
all
our
right,
electric?
Well, let me just
I
say,
think-
let me add one more little thing before you go. The bulbs, we're changing out a lot of the bulbs. So we actually, the numbers for the streetlights will beginning to decrease because we're.
because there'll be more efficient bulbs.
Or will they
Yes,
go,
they're LED.
or will they change the billing to the fixed billing?
They might, yeah, I don't know. All right,
I
so
don't think so. They're mixed right now.
so I did not go and do a like, oh, can we afford whatever? So I think the question is now, let's say, let's you say to me, I feel like is it echoing or is that just her talking?
We're talking.
Okay,
Marketing,
thank you.
yeah.
So if you say to me, look, we'd like to look into putting $5,000 a year into this program. How can we do that? Can we spread it out over all? What can we do? Can we afford it? Let me explore that.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is easier because she can, these are separate bills, 2 bills.
Yeah,
That's what makes this.
I know, I
easier.
get it. I just don't understand.
Bills.
And put them on too. That's true too.
What you're thinking. I mean, what you asked me was what's it gonna cost? I'm telling you what it's gonna cost.
Right.
I gotta look it now the other way. And I just really didn't have a lot of time to focus. So I was like, oh, I got what it costs.
Well, this is close to $2,800.
Yes, but this is super helpful even as it is,
Right.
that we get a sense of, okay, you know.
Okay.
I just have a sense of scale of what the other electric is compared to the Harper's Ferry Street.
Well, when you're talking about,
Particularly water plant.
right, you take out the water plant, they're nominal. Our
Okay.
biggest bill behind the water plant is that top line for your power bills, for your lights.
Right,
Okay, water plant is probably
I'm not,
2.5 times that.
I'm not comfortable doing them because they're ratepayers.
Right, so if you, exactly,
Right.
so if we just take the towns and,
Yeah.
so I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then tell me, do you want to target, say, 5,000 or,
yeah, I would be comfortable, personally, I would be comfortable with that, and also I think that's a good story to say, with the exception of the waterworks, which is a separate entity, all of our power is
is contributing to that?
in solar,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, all right, I'll look at it that way, and we'll have that for
If
next time.
we agree.
Yeah.
By consensus.
That's a 5,000 as an annual contribution.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
10%.
We're not motioning it now.
No.
It's-
And if we- Challenges, the thing about this is you can pull the plug anytime, you don't have to, it's not infinitum, you're not making some grand commitment.
Right, it's under
Right.
contract.
So if you say, oh, this year this is not working, we're gonna have to cut it back or cut it out, you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
That's great.
sooner, I'd like to do it sooner than later,
Yeah,
not
I
forget
agree.
this.
Well,
and-
Well, let me get
Yeah.
that for you next
Right.
month and then you
Yeah,
can take
next
it
month.
into October's meeting.
Sounds good. All right. Number 2, discussion action regarding the fiscal year 2023 water department pay scales. I'm gonna
Yes, so.
approach that now.
Storm and I worked on that and we did talk about it in water commission and approved it and recommended that is. And we feel ready to go with it if the town would like to approve it, or if the budget and finance wants to forward it to town council.
Is that here?
Mm-mm.
We have to
It's
look
not
at it.
here. I
Um,
apologize, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet.
I mean, I'm good with the concept, you know that, so.
Well, but what we would be
But I
doing
don't
is
know the numbers.
approving the actual scale. And I will say, well, we do need to see it, and I do have one thing that I do want to bring up about it. So I don't know, is there a way for us to pull it up now?
I didn't want, for once, I didn't bring my computer, but it is on my computer.
Well, I don't think we're gonna have item 3 either. so
No.
Maybe we can.
Just
and-
push them off.
Right, and if I can also get a look at that, I just want to make sure that, or, how that's gonna, where we
Impact the
are with
budget.
our numbers for. What I think I see going forward, that would be great, maybe we can just take care of both of them next time.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is a standing item. Of course, we want to get them done.
Yeah.
I'm not taking this off the agenda.
Yep,
so-
nope.
No,
Until it gets done or we kill it.
Right.
Okay, we'll put that on hiatus. Number 3, discussion action regarding the 2023 general services pay scales. We'll also put that on hiatus for next month. Okay, new business. Discussion action regarding submission for funding to town council. We have 3 items.
Okay.
They are the Appalachian Chamber of Music Company billing.
Yep.
The Harpers Ferry Bolivar Public Library billing, and the Trail and Town Alliance of Harpers Ferry Bolivar billing for Woodpecker Trail and Lot.
So starting with this chart. Is at the top, your arts and humanities request, and then over on the right-hand side, what was approved. And on the bottom is economic development, so that can be a little guide for you. I know it's really small, but. Trying to just get it on one page. Appalachian, I think it should be the top one in your stack. Behind that chart is this invoice from Appalachian Music Festival, and they are requesting. $2,000, which is what was approved by them.
yep.
Yeah,
Actually,
there it is.
yeah, I attended
Arts and humanities.
the concert here. It's terrific. They did indeed deliver their event as promised.
Okay,
uh,
good.
with the number of musicians. So I move to recommend that $2,000 be paid to the Appalachian Chamber of Music Company out of Arts and Humanities number 906 for the Appalachian, the 2022 Appalachian Chamber Music Festival.
I'll second that.
All, discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Okay, next.
So the next one is the library. That should also be in your stack. This is a very small portion of their full request. This is just for reimbursement for $300 for a ceramics class.
Okay.
And also under 906 Arts and Humanities.
Okay, I move to recommend distributing $300 to the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Public Library out of 906 Arts and Humanities for the ceramics with local artists program.
I'll second that.
Discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye.
And then the last one is for the Woodpecker Woods project for the Trail and Town Alliance, which falls under arts and, under economic development. The total they requested is $1,500, and that it was itemized as several items. This is just 2 of the items, so this is just reimbursement for $256.49 from them under 402 economic development.
And, okay, so is this being remitted to whom is this being remitted?
This would go back to Well, let's see, good point.
That's not really a remission, distributed.
It's a reimbursement and. Normally what we do.
Have it under economic
is
development.
pay it- Well, but normally what he's talking about, who it actually, the check's gonna be written to, isn't that what you're?
Yeah, okay, and then it says to have the check written
Right.
to either
Jacob, yeah,
Jacob or Jennifer.
right, because they use their credit card to pay,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
get it.
fine, yeah.
Okay, then,
Um,
and it does match the amount that they requested.
Well, it's well under,
Well,
yeah, within their budget, yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Then I move to recommend distributing $1,500 for the Woodpecker Woods Trail on behalf of the Trail in Town Alliance, with the check made out to either Jacob Stetz or Jennifer Beasley out of 402 Economic Development.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before we move on, two things, so for the town council meetings, these will come in on the checks to be approved. And that happens usually before we get to actually approving these things. So when we do that in the town council meeting, you may want to say those 3 items pending approval later in the meeting, when you approve that thing. And secondly, I just want to notice and thank these folks for working with us in the change that we've had in our process to provide documentation for payments that were made for reimbursement. This makes things so much cleaner. It makes us feel so much more confident in how we're handling taxpayer money for disbursement to them. And I just really appreciate the cooperation of these organizations to do that for us.
Yeah, it's great. And it's wonderful work that they're doing. I was up
yeah.
there last week and saw. And yeah, it's great.
Well, and not only that, but to your point of what you're just saying, it makes it really easy for us to say, look what they did.
Yes.
Rather than saying, we sent them a check, we don't know what happened.
And for anybody who asks, we
Right,
have the
exactly.
records.
Right.
We literally have the receipts.
Really good change.
Yes,
Yep.
We want to
yes,
proceed.
yes.
I
Okay,
think. Yes. Okay, item 2, discussion action for paving or reworking the road surface on Cambridge Street. I'm sure you've seen some emails on this. There's one recently, and there was one a little earlier, a few weeks ago. So one of the things, I was out at the site yesterday afternoon and I looked at that street. And it is paved, it's not paved, it's unpaved.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. No, I was lost in this document.
Oh, okay. And I'm just giving you my analysis of what's going on with the street itself. So the first 2/3 of the street, it's fine, it's hard, I drove on it, it's fine. It's the last third in front of the, pretty much in front of the house, there's gravel there. But because the it's like, this is where the vehicle turns to go on the cement driveway right before. Well, it's like sinking in that area, and that could be a couple things. It could be the stormwater as it comes down the hill is creating an issue underneath the gravel, or it wasn't put in right. It's just soft. I wouldn't want to, I'd be uncomfortable driving on it.
are we sure there's not a leak?
Well, that's another thing. I don't know.
Well,
I didn't dig up the,
given-
look underneath. So it has to be redug up. The underlying surface needs to be inspected. Who does that? That's a good question. But I think it has to be moved aside with equipment, pushed out, and we got to look at that surface or the underlying surface needs to be further supported before you can put the gravel back on. But the top 2/3 is solid. I think it's very solid, and it's much like Boundary Street. It's solid, but when you go further down, it's like sinky. It could be a problem. I can see it is a problem. I can see the turn, from the tires, how it's dug in real heavy.
Right, given how steep it is.
So it's not clear why part of the street is just fine and another part of the street is.
Angle.
It's the angle. If you go to the site, it's an angle, and that spot levels a little bit. And that's where, why we've had big concerns about this particular Cambridge Paper Street about drainage, stormwater. Could have something to do with that. I think this is more complicated than just paving it, like the last correspondence that we received from the.
Yes, it would create a cascading problem.
I don't
In
think
addition to runoff.
It's just gonna work. I think stuff has to be removed. I'm not a paving guy, or whatever in that, but I've worked enough with stone and gravel and crushed stone to know it's gotta be cleared out and he needs a better base.
And also, I did review the materials and also the stormwater ordinances, and it does need to be permeable, and I don't know if we have folks that we've worked with that use that technology. But that's what we're
I'm
supposed
a
to.
big believer in, river grid, I use a lot of my property. It's geared for driving vehicles on with rock on top and under. But again, it still has to have a subsurface that's somewhat solid, and the way it was done, I was around when the decision was made to drop crushed rock on that paved street, and we allowed the builder to do that so they can get access to the site to build this house.
Mhm.
But we never made any commitment to pave it, or we never made any other commitments to do anything further.
No, as I read the document, again, I'm not an attorney, but that it appeared that once the structure was allowed for occupancy, then it is up to the town to deal with the street.
Well, I really don't.
I
Well,
see.
one is the asking or the owner's offering to pay to put pavement 3 inches of asphalt down that street. I don't think we should, that's our street. First of all, I don't think he should be doing it. I'm not sure we have the expertise here to determine whether that's legally proper, and even if it would work.
And that's my big, go ahead,
I
Laura.
was gonna say, from what you've said, we might want to get a person who does streets and gravel, an expert to come in and give us an opinion.
And I would say it would need to be someone who's familiar with technologies other than just asphalt. If you ask a hammer, everything is a nail. And that, I don't know.
Storm is on the right track with this permeable surface because we are not paving it. Now, if we're paving it, now we're talking about drains and, diversion of water and all that, but when it's a permeable surface, it should go into the ground, sink into the ground, and that, like, what,
Water.
Well,
the water should.
Permeable is still a type of paving. There are a lot of different ways it can be done. I've only looked at the basic technologies. But it's what you were saying, where you're actually looking at the whole structure of the soil underneath and doing something where, rather than the water just running straight off, creating erosion problems elsewhere and draining things straight into the waterways, that it's keeping it in place in a way that will make it safe and usable. And since this is something that has already been approved by the town, you can question or ask the wisdom of doing that. It is now the town's responsibility. So I think if we can find a company that can advise us on the full range of technologies in order to solve this, we'd be well served.
Unfortunately, when I talked to the stormwater guy at the time, I mentioned permeable surfaces, and he looked at me and says, "We don't do that in public streets." He was not one of those guys that would want to do it.
Well-
We're gonna have a hard time finding. I'm not against it. I'm just saying this is not a common thing for driveways and somebody's,
We're not
somebody.
gonna be able to find it from paving people.
Well, I can reach out.
That's what they do.
Yeah, I get it. I can reach out to the folks at the contractor who's working with us on stormwater and see if they may be able to advise us on a range of folks that we could approach about this.
And also how it should be engineered.
Yes. I think, just to say, let's go ahead and pave it is as reckless as just leaving it as it is.
And the other issue, longer term issue, that road, we don't even know exactly how it's supposed to be routed. It turns, I believe. We don't know where it's going to cut into Putnam.
Well, the paper street, from my memory from the map, it's straight, has it been surveyed?
I don't know. And all I know at the time, we also have another property owner further down.
I think that's a separate question.
Yeah, but it's gonna come into play someday, so.
It seems like the question on anything further is, and I don't know, that's a legal question, is if a street exists on paper, what is the town's obligation to serve it, pave it, and improve it? If it runs straight down a cliff, does that mean that the town is obligated to build a funicular to reach it? You know, and obviously it has to be a spectrum, and I don't know what the line is.
That's why in the last town council, we were very sensitive about responsibility, because we don't know. This is a sensitive area. There's a lot of places that paper streets just, they would be like either off a cliff or it's too steep really to be serviceable. We got York Street that's close, in my opinion, probably shouldn't be paved, but that's just shouldn't almost be a street.
But certainly the one that we have in front of us, the residence was approved, the street is there, and the question is, how do we address it? Again, I can reach out to people who may have ideas on how it can be done in a way that's consistent with the town's policies,
Right.
ordinances.
But I still think we need to have our legal counsel look into it.
I agree.
Before we do anything. And I don't think the owner should be doing anything on their own.
No, it's the town's right of way.
Right. But there is an issue there. I sympathize,
Yes,
and it's only gonna get probably worse, particularly in the winter.
I agree, and it needs to be a priority for us, but we have to do it right.
So depending on what ends up happening there, you have some money in streets and transportation, but most of it is allotted to projects that are either were already set or are coming. So doesn't mean that the money's not there, but we may need to just look at allocation of that and when the time comes.
Why don't you do a motion? We have to tell the town council something. I mean, we have a letter from the resident. And I think what you said is very reasonable to do more further research.
So do you want to make a motion to the council?
Well, I mean, to council.
Yeah.
I think so. Or we can just pass on it, but
I'm not sure what the motion is at this point.
do further research. Well, unless, I think the town council needs to get legal involved, or town attorney, but also some alternative contractors, that would engineer more of a permeable street.
Okay, and specifically, what do we want the town attorney to investigate?
Whether we're responsible.
Okay, I'd say on the
Because
matter.
we have lots of property all over town that,
What are we responsible for on paper streets?
right,
Well, and also, don't you want to know specific to this because there's some kind of agreement?
yeah, we do, you need to look at.
Okay,
I don't think,
I have.
I don't think our town attorney was involved in this. I think he came in after.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion
Mhm.
to recommend that the town attorney be consulted on this matter and to investigate potential permeable paving alternatives.
I wonder if there are towns, particularly north of us, that have to deal with summer and winter. Who have built, they have made streets that have the permeable type. And how do they work, and how does that work in the winter time?
Well, we have one,
What?
boundary. We already
Oh,
do
this
this.
is discussion, so we either need to second it.
Yeah, let's say,
or-
Okay.
I'll second it. Discussion, okay,
Well, it just, that would be good to get that information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
part of,
research.
that's part of the investigating. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree
Right.
that there are other models that are there.
Yeah.
In fact, there's the fella out of Shepherdstown that we may be able to ask about this as well.
okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right, this. Okay, 3, this one I brought up, discussion action regarding disposition of obsolete or worn out town property. I looked in our ordinances, I really didn't see anything on this. That what I'm talking about is we have lots of old traffic signs. We have a shed not full, but we have a shed with a bunch of them in there. We're also going to start retiring a lot of signs instead of throwing them in the trash. I really feel that to some people, they have value. And I'd like the town to donate them to either the foundation or the women's club for their flea market or their sales that they do. That's what I'd like to do. But again, we don't have any policy.
They're metal signs,
Yeah, they're old,
So-
faded.
so they would go to recycling more than probably than if they were gonna actually,
They
instead
throw
of
them away.
trash.
They throw them away.
Well,
We don't
Yeah.
have recycling.
I feel
No,
like,
I'm talking about the Potomac recycling. Over in Ransom, where you take your old metal pipes and everything, and
Oh, okay.
they weigh it and they give you some money
Okay.
for it.
I'm not, there's value to these signs to certain people. There's there's people who would like to probably have some of these in their house. And I would like somebody to benefit from it instead of just trashing them. And we're gonna have a bunch. We're gonna have dozens and dozens of these in the next few years.
I agree, but I do feel like we need to be careful because it does have value. That it's something that, I don't know, I feel we should ask the town attorney. If, because you see many towns, larger towns will have processes, they auction things off, I think, to prevent. These items from being used to curry favor with one of the others. It has nothing to do with the specific organizations or us or anybody with the process, just as far as transparency and doing things in an ethical way.
It's just the cost of these. I mean, if they're $5 or $10, I mean. It's not like hundreds of dollars. You know, if we had vehicles that we have to move, we still have policy for vehicles when we have old trucks and old.
Which is why I think it would be good to establish a policy, just because we don't know, like what, because what we're doing now effectively sets precedent for what we're going to do. And maybe these signs don't have value, maybe they do, but the next time, maybe it is something more valuable, we say, let's just do it the same way. And then it becomes something where these objects could be used to influence.
Yeah, I think that they could be valuable. They could be sold and they, like, there's a community sale coming up.
That's why I was going, I don't want to.
I haven't seen them and I don't.
We don't
know
have the
what's on
staff
them.
power, we don't have the power, we don't have the bandwidth to take on something. Let's go put them on eBay and let's try to sell them. And I don't think we have, we just.
I
Well, but they're-
honestly, I could do that. I would take a picture of
Be
it.
careful.
I would put it on,
Lotion and
put it on Craigslist and you can sell stuff that way,
Okay.
but.
There are also companies, agencies that do this, that you say, we have an agreement with you. Where the town, and when we have things, you sell it, we get what, I don't know exactly how it works, but there could be efficient ways for even a small town like ours to do it.
So there's no hurry in this, so if.
Yeah, I don't think we
If
should
you-
give it away, though. I think that that probably does
But I
have some
wasn't-
value.
I'm just giving it to the charities we normally give to, that's all. The town has given thousands of dollars to both the women's club and the historic foundation, so it's. And
I
they do
get it.
the sales on an annual basis. We can wait till next year. They're doing their sales soon. That was the only reason I was.
No, I definitely, I feel that as well, but again, if you are another organization, you say, well, how come those organizations all the time? That's where I feel like, you know, it can get into trouble, maybe not in this specific case, but.
Okay, well, I don't know if we want to do it. It sounds like we need to do an ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, let's just
Yeah,
hike
we
it over
do.
to
We
our
can-
ordinance people and.
so, where is this? Recommend. That the question. Of
Obsolete disposal of
disposing.
disposition of obsolete and worn out town property.
Be taken up by ordinance review committee.
Yes, I think that's an important thing to know. And now here it is coming up again, and you said it came up.
Or do you
before.
want it to cycle right into the town council first and then they take it from there?
Oh, well, I think we're recommending to town council that the question be taken up by ordinance review.
And it's a big can of worms that you're opening. I mean, it's not just, what do we do about like stuff that wears out, and so. Does it have value? How do you determine value? There's a lot.
Yeah, like that's when they throw away broken chairs, does that have value?
Well, but I think the question is, if, okay, the alternatives would be, and this is for ordinance review, you are throwing it out. And other than that, and figuring out how you are throwing it out. And beyond that.
Right.
But
if
this
you
is
want to
stuff that
go-
would, this is the things I was bringing up, would have been thrown out.
But I think it's,
I'm saying
Well,
some
I'm just
value
saying
to
that-
some people.
That there's a lot to consider beyond just one type of item. That's
Yes.
all I'm saying. It's
Yeah. I agree.
and it would be helpful to the staff, I know, to have clarity. So anyway. Yeah.
And so it would be good to have a process so that something is evaluated for what it's worth, or is it really going to the trash? And
yeah,
that's, so we have a process for it instead of just a couple of people deciding.
I believe the motion was made, was it seconded?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second.
Discussion? No discussion, I guess we talked it out. All those in favor?
Aye.
Before we move on though, in a related subject matter having to do with the sign. Is as part of that process of making the new sign. We're working on a budget.
I have.
or-
I have already numbers already.
Good, okay, great. All right,
I just got them today.
okay, thank you. All right,
We couldn't get that on the agenda of signs. We'll get them on next.
Well, we can only open so many cans of worms at a
But
time.
we need new ones. They'll be more valuable. The new ones are gonna have Corporation of Harpers Ferry name on them. That's when they're gonna have value. Okay, discussion action. Oh, wait, there here, great. We're discussing police department budget as it relates to updating firearms and related equipment.
right. So you have in your packet a couple of quotes. I think the first two are together, giving you, it looks like it's about roughly $5,000 to bring up to standard several parts of weaponry that some of the cars need. Maybe the mayor could speak more intelligently than me to this.
Which one do they have in the,
They have the shotgun and
oh, okay. What the issue is here, I had a meeting with John several months ago, after the Uvalde shooting. And I asked him the status of his weapons. Not the handguns. I wasn't concerned about the handguns, but I have concern about the long guns. And I forget what the total inventory of AR-15s that they have. It's 4 maybe. And Remington 870s, which is a shotgun. Each cruiser has a shotgun also. They're quite old. The Remington, I mean, the AR-15 is basically the principal weapon used by law enforcement to defeat a ballistic vest. A ballistic vest can stop anything, basically, except for AR-15 or 22, as a matter of fact. So when you have an active shooter, a fairly significant percentage of active shooters wear ballistic material. And to defeat that, you need a weapon to defeat it, and that's the purpose of an AR-15. It also has high capacity magazines, so that they can put numerous rounds at your adversary because he or she's putting them at you. Remington 870s has been around a long time. It's a shotgun. I carried it for years, basically used to defeat a vehicle, the engine. It shoots a fairly significant amount of lead in one big clump.
The slug kind of thing.
Hmm?
A slug.
It's a
It's
slug.
not a scatter like normal
No.
shotguns.
It's a slug. And so they have concerns about the weapons, they've had them for a long time. So I asked John, in light of all the crazy shootings that we're having, I'm just concerned that our officers have the defensive and offensive equipment that they need, that they can depend on. Problem with AR-15s is they jam a lot. If they're not properly cared for or not used. And that's all we need is for one of our officers to respond up to the middle school for a active shooter. That is 8 or 10-year-old AR-15, jams on him or her. So it's a concern that I have. Obviously, it's a prejudice concern because of my background. I understand that. But it's also a concern that we have, 5 employees who raise their hand to protect and defend, and we need as a body to make sure that we are giving them the material, just like Debbie's 2 computers in there, my computer, to do my job, right? They need their thing. So I just put that out. They've had the current ones currently, and if we can swing it, that would be great. If we need to defer it, then I guess we'll defer it, but I don't want to defer it much longer.
Is there also information about the body armor? Is that?
I think they're pretty, I think the only other issue that I am going to ask them to look into is a ballistic shield. They do not have ballistic shields. Sheriffs have ballistic shields. The shield is item here that will defeat an AR-15. So you can be behind a ballistic shield and the AR-15 won't penetrate it. I don't believe we have one. I think we need to have at least one in at least one of our cruisers, just to have it. So anyway, I asked Debbie to make sure that gets on there for discussion and consideration. It's just a matter of us being, hopefully they will never have to be used, but we have to have something that when they do, when Corbin pulls it out of the lockbox in the front seat, that AR-15, when he pulls the trigger, he needs to make sure that he's sending rounds downrange.
Yeah, is there any trade, talking about obsolete surplus, or is there any value to these old guns? to be
Yeah, I
traded
believe
in?
that there's I remember this came up before. Christian, when I was mayor before, and we were getting new handguns. I think they went from a SIG to Remington, I forget, and they switched them out, and there was some trade-in value.
Okay, well, that's,
And nuts and bolts.
so this is not extra guns. I mean, these are gonna replace.
Oh, yeah,
These
I mean,
are-
once these come in, if we have the money and the vote to get this. If we get 3 ARs, there'll be 3 taken out of service, and those 3 would be. Some of the gun dealers, the certified gun dealers, they can repurpose them and then resell them as a used weapon, which is done quite a bit. Now, the feds, they generally destroy them. Because they get
Almost done.
Now, nuts and bolts, where does this fit within the budget? Is it outside?
So, we did not plan on this when we created the budget, but we do have in public safety. Yeah. Had that number 12,000. And so I have a call in with Cox Holiday, but they're all doing some training right now. To check on whether this could be capitalized or how we would handle this. But I think we probably can pull it out of there. That number was there kind of as a reserve. Weren't really planning on doing it, but we could possibly pull it from there and then kind of adjust a little bit when we revise our budget, or, we could look at revising within the next month and make the purchase in October.
I think in light of what's going on in our country right now, I think we do need to give these guys the right tools.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate there are so many weapons of war just floating around that it's necessary to make sure that people
Hmm.
that what can them are prepared.
Absolutely.
Now, it's what the amount is.
My understanding is, I, like 98 or something. It's the first two invoices that are better, quote than the last one. First two go together.
And that doesn't include
So,
the shield.
right, so if you said,
We got this one shield or one per car.
And now I'm looking just at the department has one shield.
then maybe if you
And
said,
whoever's on duty would have it downstairs. I think the shields are quite expensive.
well, maybe if we said up to 6,000 to cover these and a shield. And then if we find out the shield is gonna bust that budget, we can at least get these moving and then we deal with the shield later.
Yeah, and then if there's any trade-in, that would just be a credit later.
Yeah.
So it's outside this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to make a motion.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna ask a question. So when was the last time, just wondering, when's the last time we updated the guns?
Good question.
The handguns were done
handguns.
in 2018 when I came here. And then, but these were before that.
Yeah, these, I don't know when
Like
these
10 years.
purchased, these are may be the original ARs. that
I'm
they-
just curious, you know, what the typical service life is?
Depends on how many shot.
Yeah, it depends on how many rounds you put through, and they have to qualify, I think, 4 times a year. I mean, I have to qualify once a year, and I go through about 200 rounds just in my qualification. They have to qualify, I think, 3 or 4 times a year, so. They're putting hundreds of rounds through.
Yeah, they probably are getting close to their service life.
Like to make a motion. To recommend approving up to $6,000 to upgrade the police department's firearms and related equipment and $12,000 public safety.
I'll second that. Discussion. All those in favor?
I
Excuse me.
Okay, next item, moving right along. Well, my least favorite item. Discussion action regarding 2022-23 snow removal. Anyway,
Cue the jingle bells and the.
yeah, we're, now, I know there's been, some people come up to me every year during winter time and talk to me about we need our own equipment. I don't think we're prepared to do that. I still think we're gonna have to put it out to contract. Maybe someday we'll be able to do it, but I still don't think we're it's a fiscally responsible thing to do at this. And I don't know what you guys think.
No, I agree. Like I've talked with folks and looked into it myself, and given our current capacity, I don't feel like it would be a good move.
I did talk to somebody who lives in our water district. Just happened to talk to him. Apparently he has in the past done the plowing. And I'm not sure if it was for Harper's Ferry or Oliver or both. And he said the reason he didn't want to continue was because he didn't want to deal with people coming out of their houses telling them, but you've got to use this spot over here. And the reason I bring this up is because he really shouldn't have to do that. It's really somebody who has a complaint we need to have some avenue. I can understand very well why he doesn't want to deal with just people one at a time. There should be some way someone can report. And then our office deals with him instead of him having to deal with, all of the people he plows the street for. And I only bring this up because, we could maybe do this a lot cheaper than we have done in the past. If we just add stipulations to the package to make it a little nicer for the person who's plowing. So they don't have to deal with what this guy had to deal with and why he gave it up.
Are there, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the parking committee definitely gets a fair amount of these. It's not like the town's exempt. We get a lot of the issues
that aren't cleared, you know, aren't properly cleared.
Might there be something that, I don't know if we could look around at other contracts that have a clause like that? Like, have we heard from anybody directly when they're bidding that say you need a clause like this?
Here's what is happening. We're literally not getting much bids at all. We got, I think, one last year. We really don't have a lot of choice.
And we've asked, you know, we've got.
We asked them to give us. a bid.
I remember.
But also other places we've. said
Yeah, we
we've
have,
Used
yeah.
it, I mean, it's more than just putting it in the paper, we've contacted places and said, could you please bid?
And
We're gonna have a person in public works, so,
This
you
would
know,
be
things could be directed there and perhaps coordinated better. That might be something that could fall into that purview.
yeah,
Mhm.
the other thing we do is we have been clearing the sidewalks in the town for a few reasons, and that is an additional cost. But I'm a believer in it because it gets done. I mean, we asking all these property owners to go out there and do it. Honestly, I don't think would happen, and we need to have clear sidewalks. And my opinion on the parking committee is the people who live in Washington Street have the toughest time with, they get the most noise, they get the most traffic, they get the most people in front of their houses all the time. There's inconvenience. And I have always felt that this is the right thing to do for those residents. To clear the snow, because that is a big part of our bill.
Well-
And it's manual labor.
Then are you proposing that we crack open last year's playbook and again, put it out to bid, solicit bids? And in a way we go.
Yeah, I would say just like we've done it in the past. I mean, maybe this system, you think this bidding system would have, they're not at that level.
It
right?
might,
Well, it might, but what you really are, you know, what you. Are faced with there is you want people who are close. You know, I've
We
got
got
to
to
get somebody who's, you know, from Frederick coming over here to Paul Snow, that's gonna be. Crazy, so you have to get
we
somebody.
know everybody that we could reach who would.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that we know everybody that we could reach,
Well,
but
no.
we certainly know. That we've certainly tried to cast a pretty big net and make it public knowledge and. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is. I'm not sure that technology is necessarily going to widen the net anymore to be received
I
by
see.
people. Who aren't getting the net already,
I-
you know,
The proximity is absolutely
Right,
correct.
it's not like someone
Yeah.
downstate or somewhere
Right.
else is gonna say,
They can't
oh,
even
great,
get
I'll
here."
just add that to our snow plowing list. Yeah.
right. I mean, we could start, you know. I mean, even like Purcellville and places like that, even if you talk to somebody down there, they got that mountain to deal with getting here, just to get started,
Yeah,
not to mention supply, salt, you know, all that stuff.
well,
Yeah.
Laurel, we may end up in a place where we get no bids and then we'll have to do that ourselves.
True enough.
I don't know, I would say, given that we, you know, the lack of bids, it's certainly a shot in the dark, but if it's not too much trouble to put it on the platform, if we're just putting up the document just so it can be searched, it couldn't
Okay,
hurt.
Sure.
Well, I guess it can't hurt. Is somebody gonna review what we're putting out there, make sure we don't want it tweaked or anything, I don't.
Hmm. Well,
I'm not sure what you just suggested. Would
this
you
is
repeat it?
the bid platform that we use for
Oh, yeah,
outbound.
that big, okay, right,
Like,
I got you.
it's it's not a high percentage shot that we're gonna find someone, because how many snow removal contractors are probably on that platform, you know? It's
Yeah.
just because the field seems to be so thin that, you know, it's setting up a flare.
I
Long time on quit.
I just want to, since I live on Washington Street.
Don't we all? No, we don't.
I guess I would be more in favor, I think that. And I speak for myself, I should pay my fair share toward this, you know, shoveling snow of the sidewalk. I know that I would be willing to just pay in some money to help, if there was a way to do that, and to ask the citizens, if you don't want to, if you would like the city to shovel your snow in front of your house and you would like to pay this amount, might be considered your fair share. I bet we could get citizens to contribute.
But keep in mind,
I would.
yeah, but keep in mind, this is also Lower Town. We're doing all the businesses down through Lower Town, and they have really appreciated the service that they've got in the last few years in clearing. It's important to their business. I mean, I guess they've been doing it, or somebody doing it, but very haphazardly. Not all the businesses would clear it. That's sort of the problem we have in this. What do
Well,
you
maybe,
do?
do you think that they might also be willing to just pay a one-time fee that helps the town do it in from a contractor?
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know how you would.
Yeah, it sounds like
There's-
illegal
yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into, it sounds like you're willing to do that, but are you gonna make people do that? And
Well,
then,
that's what we
what
have to
if,
decide.
you
is
know,
that
and then-
Probably is not gonna be making people do it.
yeah,
It's
so
probably
then
just
what
you.
about the people who get annoyed because they're paying it and other people aren't? And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna pay it, and then they'll pay
and
it.
the other services, you start to kind of break off in that way.
We got 3 churches on the road. What do they do? I mean, they don't have people.
Now, now what we're doing is setting up the expectation that the city's gonna do it, even though the ordinance says that the citizen is supposed to do it.
We've been doing it for almost 4 or 5 years. It's been,
Well, the question is the justification doing it rise to the level that the town should? And, I feel like that there is value because it is the major visitor corridor as well as for residents that it be cleared. But that's a judgment call that we need to make and that ultimately, or to recommend if we need to decide a motion is required for town council to make.
Well, I think that all of you, everything you say is true, but if there was a way to pay in, I bet there'd be a lot of our citizens that would say, okay, I want to contribute to that because you're doing something for me. And it's really my responsibility.
we have a lot of owners who are not living here. I don't know how
And so
actually
they
get a hold of them.
especially,
Yeah, but are we gonna start, we have to clear, we can't have like section cleared. Then a whole strip with snow and
yeah,
ice on it.
but I'm not
and-
saying that, maybe I misunderstood. I'm not saying that you would only do the sections for people who paid. I'm saying you would continue doing it for everybody,
Yeah,
but there's an avenue for people to put in their
I
fair
see.
share if they would like to contribute.
sure.
That's what I'm
I mean,
suggesting.
oh, sure, but I think we would need to look into whether that's even a possibility in the scope of a municipality, because what do you call that?
Right.
As far as income on our income sheet? Is it a tax? Is it a contribution from another entity? What is that?
I don't know, but even the IRS lets you pay extra if you want. It's true.
That's true. That's true.
It's not extra money.
I think that's a good general question to ask.
I just again want to do something more for the residents. You all 3 are residents of Washington Street.
But then we'll do my side.
What?
That's because the sidewalks.
They're supposed to.
Okay, well,
I think,
after that.
well, let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It's just that the people on Washington Street have to put up with a lot, and I remember Mayor Bishop, he did it unilaterally from the town council. I mean, he just said to do it. And at the time I gave it some thought, and I thought, yep, I agree with him. That's one of the few things I agree with him on. But and the other thing, like, I've talked to some people like, well, if they don't clear it, we'll fine them. Do you know what's gonna happen?
You can find them if you can find them.
Well, we have to clear them and then we have to fine them and charge them whatever it costs us, and it's expensive.
Okay.
It's a
I
legit.
think the other thing that's nice about it being done is that it's also done to a certain standard. I mean, Bob gets out and shovels his snow one way and Alice does it a different way. And maybe somebody else is taking care of the ice and somebody else isn't. This is done consistently. You're not getting that situation where you've got tourists walking down and all of a sudden there's a patch of ice because somebody didn't either get to it, didn't think it needed to be done a certain way, whatever.
Yes.
Correct. And the other thing is sometimes it snows more than once
Yeah.
in the same day. It could be, you can clear it and next thing you know, there's another 2 or 3 inches on it. You can't have any ice and snow on a sidewalk.
So anyway, yeah. Well,
Leave
is
it.
somebody so are we just gonna take what we had before and put it out? Or is there any tweaking that needs to be done? Do we care?
Yeah, I think going with last year's playbook is the way to go. Do we need a motion for that, or is this more?
So I
mechanical?
think you can recommend that to council that they put it out to bid. And if you want it to go through the platform, you can, I guess, recommend that as well.
You know what, I'll leave that off. If we can do it, we can do it,
Okay.
but I don't want to tie to it if we look at it and
Okay.
say, you know, just because it's such a low percentage.
Yeah,
Okay, I would like to I'm making a motion to recommend that the 2022-23 snow removal. Contract be put out to bid.
I'll second that. Further discussion.
And we can send around what that bid is that gets put out. We're gonna send around it for.
you can ask, I think Patty has that and can ask her to circulate it to, it'll become part of council packet.
Okay, so
Yeah,
when
that's
this comes
good.
forward, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Yes,
All those in favor?
all right.
Okay.
Oh, who seconded that?
I did. Snow removal is a nightmare. It's thankless, but we have to do it. And by the way, in the past, let me just say, the state used to clear 340 on a timely basis. Don't do it anymore.
Hmm.
The park used to clear some of the side streets and lock their street down and shut it up. They don't do that anymore. It's all falling on us.
so that the park doesn't do that anymore? Why not?
So
Why wouldn't
probably
they-
budget
Cut their
cutbacks.
budgets.
They don't,
We
I've
should
never
ask
seen the
them.
park do, they no longer they have equipment and they don't even bring it out.
I remember when I moved here in
Well-
2010, someone telling me that street was part of, it was a highway. It's basically 340 business, right?
It is.
And that the state would come and do the whole
That's what's
street.
supposed to happen,
They're supposed to do.
So
but they don't.
They don't.
maybe we should ask.
We have that.
We're doing this.
We are, it's been asked,
Yeah.
and and
We're a low priority.
Or the very furthest out thing, of
If-
this very big
You
state.
know, if we don't say anything.
No, we have been said, he has gone after them and it has been brought up.
So who did you talk to and what
Not
did
me.
they say?
No, I'm talking about the mayor
The mayor talked to them and.
in that general person.
Oh, yeah, they're not listening to me.
I mean, you're well,
And what did they say?
I don't have the answers, but nothing
I
happened.
mean,
Yeah, so, yeah.
Now, I've spoken to our vendor that we've had, and they have been very good about coming back. They have been very good, and we showed them stuff and they kind of go by it. By the way, they do the park service
And they also do Bolivar.
and they do Bolivar.
Yeah, so that's kind of.
So
a
I'm
different-
very professional with them. I'm not never yet get mad at them or anything because we don't have much choice. But they are very professional back to us and they listen to us and
And I do recommend, as we think about this and we end up contracting for it, that, you know, those meetings that I think a meeting before we kick off the season,
Yes.
walk around, that is so valuable. And they really want that. They want to do a good job.
It's gonna make their lives.
see, they don't know
easier.
exactly where all our streets are. They don't even know where to dump the snow.
Yeah.
So we have to
There's a
explain.
lot of stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Trust me, I've been out in the middle of it quite a bit.
Mhm.
No, thank you for especially the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Dealing with that, yeah.
Thankless.
Hey, I just thanked you.
Thank you. I got it now, but when it's snowing, I don't get it. Last item, 6, discussion action and updating the fiscal year 2023 revision number 2 budget.
So what you have in front of you is a document that would go to the state auditor's office. This has a net zero effect on our budget. This is simply to clear up a clerical error that occurred inadvertently. As you can see, there's only things on the expenditure section at the bottom. So the numbers are really close and they get entered into this massive spreadsheet and somehow they just got entered on the wrong line. So 416 needs to become 415 and 905 needs to become 906. So it's just clearing up a clerical issue and net effect to our budget of 0.
I move to recommend updating the fiscal year 2023 revision 2 budget as proposed.
Well, second it, discussion. I don't hear any decision. Yeah, all those in favor? Okay,
You know, I have a question.
Oh,
Debbie,
oh,
excuse me, Debbie, can I see you for a second?
It's too bad she's leaving, but, I don't get what line this is. It looks like it's big enough to be a sum. So. What is that number?
Which one?
Community center is 97,000?
Well, that's what she's saying, is that it was accidentally placed on that line. So it's backing it out of there and putting it into arts and humanities where it belongs.
yeah, it's just more of a clerical. More of a clerical thing.
So,
Otherwise, we're gonna have ourselves a sweet new community center.
Yeah,
We could
so,
use the sweet
I mean,
new
the
community center.
97,000, that wasn't a sum, it was an actual one transaction.
It's not a transaction. There's a massive, like. Tabs and tabs and tabs of a spreadsheet that I have to fill out to send in the budget. I accidentally entered this number on that line instead of that line. This is the number that was approved in our budget.
So it itself, you had to put in a sum, it wasn't like a,
Yeah, I had
Okay.
it, so off of this sheet that you all approved. For that item, 906, I accidentally put it on line 905.
I'm just surprised that this isn't just part of the spreadsheet because it's a calculated amount.
It's not a calculated amount when it goes into this spreadsheet to the state auditor's
Oh,
office.
okay. So this is like a finished.
If
up,
I,
and you
right,
take
if I
one
were
out
to
and
give you guys this thing to work with every week, you would just be like, what is this?
I'm,
And
yeah,
so, yeah,
I get what you're saying.
so I take these totals and I put them on the sheet and it was just a key.
Yeah.
And then I got new glasses.
Okay, so,
Okay, thank you.
did you want to vote?
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's, that
All those
was,
in favor? Okay. All right, with that, do I have a motion to close the end of the meeting?
So moved.
second.
Those in favor?
All
All
right.
right.
4:39 PM.